The moment the waiter set down the breadbasket, my sister leaned toward her boyfriend with that fake sweet smile she uses right before she humiliates someone. I felt it coming like a tremor under the table. The restaurant was loud, clinking glasses, Friday night chatter, but somehow her voice cut straight through all of it. Not yet. I wasn't giving her the satisfaction. I sat calmly, crossing my legs, my heels tapping the floor in a steady rhythm. My heart wasn't steady, though. It thudded hard and fast, the way it always did whenever Mia decided I was her entertainment for the evening. Her boyfriend, a tall guy with dark blonde hair and a soft expression, his name was Caleb Warren, kept glancing at everyone as if trying to read the temperature of the room. I didn't know him well. They've been dating for about a month. He seemed normal, kind even, which is why I didn't expect him to be pulled into the circus. Mom sipped her soda. Dad unfolded his napkin. Everyone pretended not to feel the tension crawling across the table like static. I swallowed, steadying myself. Mia always did this. Always had to be a little brighter, a little bigger, a little louder than everyone else, especially me, and especially tonight when she was eager to show off her new relationship like a trophy. Fine. Let her talk. I'd learned to survive her storms years ago, but I didn't know the storm was about to flip directly onto her. The menus hadn't even been collected yet when she struck. "So, Caleb," she said, her voice growing louder as she leaned back in her chair, "if you want to avoid awkwardness, do not ask my sister about her career." My stomach tightened, heat in my cheeks, a flash behind my eyes, but my face stayed neutral. "Here we go." "It's too embarrassing," she added with a fake whisper that carried across nearby tables. Caleb blinked slowly. His eyebrows nudged together in confusion. Mom fidgeted with her straw. Dad suddenly found his silverware fascinating. I felt the familiar sting in my chest, the one that used to crush me when I was younger, but tonight something felt different. I wasn't the vulnerable version of myself from years ago. I wasn't the girl who swallowed every insult because I didn't want to fight. I had built something, quietly, carefully, strategically, and tonight Mia was about to trip into her own trap. I lifted my water glass and took a calm sip. "It's fine," I said softly. "I'm used to it." Mia snorted. "Well, you never told us what you're doing now. We all just assumed you're. She swirled her hand casually, still figuring life out. My jaw tensed, but I forced a slow breath. The truth was simple. I owned a small but fast-growing tech consulting firm in Seattle. We worked with startups and mid-sized companies, streamlining their onboarding systems and improving their operations. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real and successful, and something I had built on my own. Long nights, endless coffee, and sheer determination. But I never bragged about it. My parents didn't understand it, and Mia always acted like anything I did was a thrift store version of her own achievements. I wasn't about to explain myself at a table full of people waiting to laugh. So I just smiled. "It's okay," I shrugged. "Ask whatever you want." Before Mia could respond, Caleb cleared his throat. "So, actually," he said slowly, turning toward me, "I didn't want to talk about work." Mia slapped her hand lightly against his arm. "Babe, don't make her uncomfortable." He stared at her, really stared. A pause stretched between them, long, pointed, almost unnerving. Then he turned back to me with an expression that shifted everything. Respect, recognition, something sharp beneath it. "Actually," he said, "I think she might make you uncomfortable." Mia froze. The entire table paused. Even the waiter passing by glanced over. My pulse jumped. Caleb rested his elbows gently on the table and said, "I think the question isn't about her career. I think the real question is." He smiled, not cocky, not mocking, just certain. "Should I be the one to tell your family who signed my paycheck this morning?" The air sucked out of the table in an instant. Mom blinked rapidly. Dad stopped mid-bite. Mia's face twitched like she couldn't process what was being said. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My heart jumped to my throat, but not out of anxiety, out of surprise. He wasn't supposed to say that. He wasn't supposed to know that. I hadn't expected him to connect the dots, let alone reveal them in front of everyone. Mia's face drained of color, as if someone had flipped a switch. She looked between Caleb and me like she was trapped in a glitch. "W what?" she stammered. Caleb turned entirely toward her now. "Yeah, the company that contracted me for the new onboarding system, the one with the lightning bolt logo." He nodded toward me. "Your sister owns it. I met her for the first time this morning." Silence. The kind of silence that tastes like electricity. My breath lodged in my chest, not from fear, but from the strangest mix of shock and satisfaction. Mia's jaw dropped open, then snapped shut. Her eyes darted to me. My chest tightened with something I rarely felt at this table. Power. But I didn't rub it in. I didn't gloat. I didn't even smile. I just folded my napkin and said softly, "I didn't think it was important to talk about." Dad cleared his throat awkwardly. "You own a company?" Mom blinked. "Since when?" Before I could answer, Mia straightened her shoulders, trying to recover. "Oh, come on. She's exaggerating. She probably just works there." Caleb shook his head. "No, I signed paperwork today. She's the founder and CEO." Her lips parted again. Nothing came out. I felt a tremor in my hands, not fear, but adrenaline. Warm, rising, steady. This was new territory. This was me finally standing on ground I built myself. Caleb leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Honestly," he said, looking at me, "I didn't expect to walk into dinner with the person who hired me." The table remained silent. Mia's hand trembled around her fork. I took another sip of water. "Well," I said softly, "I guess now you know." But inside I knew something bigger was coming. Something Mia had no idea was waiting for her. Her embarrassment tonight, that wasn't the revenge. That was just the first crack. Mia didn't speak for a full 10 seconds. That alone was historic. Her fingers clenched around her napkin like she could crush the fabric into dust. I could practically see the calculations running behind her eyes. She couldn't admit she'd been wrong, but she couldn't deny what Caleb had said. Dad cleared his throat. "You run a company big enough to hire people?" I nodded gently. "Yes, Dad." Mom blinked at Caleb. "And she really hired you?" He nodded. "This morning. 1-year contract." Mia snapped back into herself. "Okay, well, that doesn't change anything. She's still successful." Caleb cut in, his tone firm but calm. "Capable? Independent? Sounds like it changes a lot." The way he said it, steady, protective even, made Mia shrink an inch in her seat. I felt my heartbeat settle, calming into something warm. It wasn't romance. It wasn't admiration. It was the simple feeling of being seen for once. Really seen. And Mia hated it. She turned her glare on him. "So, you're taking her side?" He didn't hesitate. "I'm taking the side of truth." Mom shifted uncomfortably, looking between us with a guilty kind of softness. Dad avoided eye contact completely. The waiter returned with appetizers we'd forgotten we ordered. The plates landed on the table, but nobody reached for them. Mia leaned forward, her voice low and sharp. "You're embarrassing me." I exhaled. There it was, the real issue. Not my job, not my life, her pride. "Actually," I said quietly, "I didn't embarrass you. You did that yourself." Her head snapped toward me. "Excuse me?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't match her fire. I just told the truth. "You decided my worth before you asked. You assumed I was failing. You chose to mock me to impress someone you barely know. A small tremor ran through my chest, but my voice remained steady. I'm done letting you paint me as the weak one. Mia swallowed hard. Caleb watched me with a mix of surprise and respect. Mom looked down. Dad shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Mia opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak first, not this time. I built something for myself, I said, something real. And instead of being happy for me, you tried to make me small in front of your boyfriend. Her lips tightened. I didn't know, okay? You never said. You never asked. Another long pause. For the first time in my life, Mia didn't have a comeback. Caleb suddenly pushed his chair back. I'm sorry if this makes dinner awkward, he said, but I don't like when people talk down to someone who's done nothing wrong. He wasn't looking at me anymore. He was looking at her, and Mia's face twisted into something I'd seen only a few times. Fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of being exposed. I realized then that this wasn't just about tonight. It was about every time she tried to paint me as the lesser sister so she could shine brighter. Not anymore. I reached for my purse slowly. I'm going to head out, I said. I have an early meeting tomorrow. Mom looked up as though she wanted to say something but didn't know how. Dad cleared his throat again. Caleb nodded softly. I'll walk you out. That made Mia glare at him. Why? She's fine. He didn't answer her. He just stood. I pushed in my chair calmly. My hands were no longer shaking. As we walked through the restaurant, I felt Mia's eyes burning into my back. Good. Let her sit with the consequences of her own choices. At the door, Caleb spoke quietly. For what it's worth, your work is impressive. I didn't know you were related to all that. Thank you, I said with a small smile, but in the back of my mind, a thought was forming. Tonight wasn't the end. Tonight was the beginning of my revenge. I didn't plan to see Caleb again after that night. The dinner had been messy enough, and I wanted distance, time to regain my balance. But 2 days later, he showed up outside my office building holding a paper cup with my name written on it in messy marker. I guessed your coffee order, he said with a small smile. If it's wrong, pretend it isn't. I laughed genuinely. You didn't have to come by. I know, he said, but I wanted to. We walked inside together, and the moment he stepped into my office, clean glass walls, organized desks, quiet hum of productivity, his eyebrows lifted. Wow, he said, you really underplayed all of this. It felt easier, I admitted. My family's always compared me to Mia. I got used to being quiet. He shook his head. You shouldn't be quiet. You built something people dream about. His sincerity warmed a part of me I didn't even realize had gone cold. But the warmth didn't last long. At noon, my phone buzzed with a message from Mom. Your sister's upset. She says you humiliated her at dinner. Can you apologize? I stared at the screen, stunned. Caleb saw the change in my expression. You okay? I turned the phone toward him. He read it and let out a dry, humorless laugh. She humiliated you, he said, and they want you to fix it? Always, I whispered. I've always been the one who cleans the mess. His expression softened. Then maybe it's time you stop. Those words hit deeper than he probably intended. Maybe it was time. That night, I wrote a message in our family group chat, short, clear, and unshakable. I won't apologize for finally standing up for myself. Respect goes both ways. I stared at it for a full minute before pressing send. 3 seconds later, Mia's typing appeared, then vanished, then reappeared, then vanished again. Finally, she sent, "You're being dramatic." I exhaled, shaking my head. No accountability, no reflection. Typical. But the real twist came the next morning when I walked into my office and found one of my employees waiting for me with wide eyes. "You won't believe this," she said. "Your sister applied for a role here." I blinked. "What?" "She submitted her resume last night." I sat down slowly, processing the irony. The same sister who said my career was too embarrassing now wanted a job at my company. Caleb, who had walked in behind me, burst into an uncontrollable laugh. "Oh, wow," he said. "Oh, this is poetic." It was more than poetic. It was an opportunity, but not for revenge built on cruelty. Revenge built on truth. I leaned back in my chair, my mind turning. "I know exactly what to do," I said quietly. And this time, it wasn't fear running through me. It was control. It was clarity. It was the beginning of the final move. I waited a full day before responding to Mia's job application. Not out of spite, out of intention. I wanted clarity, not chaos. I wanted her to finally see the line she kept crossing. So the next morning, I invited her to my office. No email, no text explanation, just a simple message. "Come in at 10 a.m. tomorrow. We need to talk." At 9:59, she burst through the glass lobby doors breathless, hair perfectly curled, eyes already defensive. "You didn't have to make this formal," she snapped, clutching her purse. "You could have just hired me. We're family." I walked her into the meeting room, keeping my expression neutral. "Sit," I said gently. She did, crossing her arms. "Are you going to drag out what happened at dinner? Because Caleb misunderstood." "He didn't misunderstand," I said calmly. "You tried to embarrass me." She flinched. I continued, my tone steady and controlled. "You've done it for years, made jokes, taken shots, turned me into the lesser sibling so you could look brighter." Her lips parted, but she didn't deny it. "For once," I said, "you felt what I felt for years." She looked down, fingers tightening around her purse strap. "I didn't mean it like that," she mumbled. "It just came out wrong." "I'm not here to punish you," I said. "I'm here to show you the truth." I slid her resume across the table. She stared at it confused. "If you want a job here," I continued, "you'll earn it like everyone else. No shortcuts, no favors, no special treatment." Her eyes widened. "Wait, so you're not just giving it to me?" "No," I said simply, "but I'm not rejecting you either." She swallowed hard. "Why?" "Because growth starts with accountability," I said, "and maybe this is yours." Silence washed over the room. For once, Mia didn't have a comeback. She didn't glare. She didn't roll her eyes. She simply whispered, "I didn't realize I hurt you that much." It wasn't perfect accountability, but it was the closest she had ever come. I nodded. "You can interview next week. A standard interview. If you're qualified, you'll get the job." She looked at me with something unfamiliar. Respect. "Thank you," she said softly. Not dramatic, not sarcastic, just real. When she left, I felt the weight on my shoulders finally lift. Not because I'd won, but because I'd finally stopped being silent. Later that evening, Caleb and I grabbed coffee. The warm light of the cafe made everything feel easier. "So," he said, raising an eyebrow, "how did it go with your sister?" "I set boundaries," I said. "Real ones." His smile widened. "About time." I laughed. "Yeah, it was." He leaned back, looking at me with a warmth I hadn't expected. "You know, you're stronger than you think." I looked down, smiling into my cup. I'm starting to believe that. Outside the window, the sun dipped low, painting the sky in soft gold. For the first time in years, I wasn't the quiet sister. I was the one writing my own ending, and it felt like the beginning of something good. Really good.